Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, the cop who identified Luigi Mangione gets an award. Rex Huerman wants 7 trials, and I agree. And in support, I'm wearing his t-shirt. A corrupt politician, Bob Menendez, gets sentenced and cries like a little baby. Hell has no fury like a woman scorned. Another woman kills her husband to cover up her side hustle. How many times have I said when it comes to recidivism, past performance is indicative of future results? Young Superman is arrested, an example of why you must always be on the alert. This day in legal history and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that bell for notifications, and yes, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. You may say, Scott, why do you have your Rex Huerman shirt on today? That was sent to you from a subscriber. Well, we are in support of Rex Huerman getting 7 trials. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to tell you. And for those who are listening perhaps on a podcast, it is a picture of Rex Huerman that says, the pizza is amazing, but make sure you finish the crust. Old pesky DNA, right? You got no expectation of privacy when your DNA is in that pizza box out in the alley. Is it, ladies and gentlemen? All right, before we get to today's docket, go to crimetalksearch.com. I'm telling you, sign up for a background subscription service today. Knowledge is power. Do a background search, check and see who is coming into your life. Do they have a criminal history? Are they a sex offender? Why do they have 8 different emails that they don't communicate with you about? What are those for? Is it all their Bumble accounts or whatever they're trying to do on the dating scene? Anyway, go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up today. You'll be happy you did. And remember, you can cancel at any time. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket. And let's open the record for January 30th, 2025. First, the cop that ID'd Luigi Mangione, he gets an award. That's right. San Francisco Police Sergeant Michael Huerman, who cracked the missing persons case when updates came from a crime some 2,500 miles away, began flooding the country's news feeds. That's right, the Luigi Mangione case. It was the morning of December 5th. The New York officials had released the first photos of an unidentified suspect wanted in the fatal shooting of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson just the day before. Now, the suspect's partially exposed face continued to dominate news cycles as Huerman began poring over the subject's Instagram account in his own missing persons case. That's right, the young Ivy League graduate Luigi Mangione. Anyway, there were a couple of those photos that apparently he was smiling just at the right angle, and Huerman thought, it just kind of dawned on me that looks like my guy. Anyway, Huerman was named Officer of the Month in December for his role in connection with Mangione to the New York slaying 4 days before his name became public following his December 9th arrest at that McDonald's in Pennsylvania. So the San Francisco's police identification of Mangione and how local investigators pass that information along to the FBI is the reason for his award. The details of the ID and the names of the individual officers involved in the local case have not previously been made public. But now Mangione obviously faces a slew of federal and state charges, including first-degree murder. Obviously, he's pled not guilty. He's entitled to the presumption of innocence. And the police officer said that his fellow investigators and the Special Victims Unit described the first moments when they realized it was Mangione. And, of course, he thanks everybody. It's a big team effort, et cetera, et cetera. As you may recall, Mangione's mother, Kathleen Mangione, had reported her son missing to the San Francisco police back on November 18th, and she said she hadn't spoken to him since early July in 2024. Anyway, the mother reported that Mangione had been working at a car listing website that had an office in San Francisco, but the location was permanently closed and the main number was disconnected, so she became quite concerned. Anyway, a Sergeant Saragusa, the first investigator assigned to the case, said he had a long conversation with Kathleen Mangione, who put him in contact with one of her son's good friends who grew up with him in Baltimore. The friend told Saragusa that Mangione was supposed to be attending a wedding that summer, but had failed to show up as well. Anyway, Luigi sent him a really detailed message about how life had gotten tough and nobody understood him and, all the stuff that teenagers, oh, that's right, Luigi's a grown man, go through. The friend of Mangione also informed Sergeant Saragusa on what was now widely known biographical information about Mangione, that he was very smart, active, athletic, and he'd been living in Hawaii. He also told Saragusa that Mangione had been suffering from this back pain, and it really disrupted his life physically as well as mentally. Anyway, Sergeant Saragusa said the friend didn't believe it was likely that Mangione was suicidal or become a victim of a crime. The friend described Mangione's mother as somewhat overbearing and said that she had some divisions between the young man and the rest of the family. Anyway, needless to say, case solved, right? If that's in fact Luigi Mangione under the mask, right? For those doubters out there, people that are skeptics, that's right. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Anyway, as you know, police found little physical evidence of Mangione in San Francisco, and the number Mangione's mother had provided had been turned off since July, and there was some minor suspicious activity on his bank account. That was about it. Anyway, Saragusa said Mangione's family continued to call the department for updates, and then on December 5th, he had asked his partner, Sergeant Huerman, to take a second look. After conferring with Saragusa, the other officers in the station, the investigators decided that the likeness to the murder suspect was strong enough to pass that tip on to the FBI, who sent it to the New York State Police as well. Anyway, before police could fully vet the tip, Mangione was separately spotted having breakfast at McDonald's. Anyway, it's probably likely that Saragusa and Huerman will ultimately have to testify as to how they came up with this identification and how they're going to prove it. Anyway, both police officers involved and Huerman are very proud of their team and, all that good stuff. Anyway, Sergeant Huerman recalled that the smile of the unidentified murderer was what tipped him off and said made him easy to spot. So we'll have to wait and see if those two come around. Anyway, I guess it is some good police work. Anyway, a Massachusetts woman was arrested with a homemade Molotov cocktail at the United States Capitol this week and said that she was suffering from a terminal illness, but that she was inspired by Luigi Mangione. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Riley Jane English. She's only 24, and she was arrested at the Capitol on Tuesday with the unlawful possession of a firearm and carrying an explosive or incendiary device, although not really. So according to what took place, English was arrested about 3 p.m. on Monday after telling Capitol Police that she had a knife and Molotov cocktails and she wanted to turn herself in. She said she didn't really want to hurt anybody, and she's not really sure how she got there. It was just very impulsive, but that she did have a folding knife and two 50-milliliter bottles of 80-proof vodka with gray cloth soaked in hand sanitizer attached to the top of the vodka bottles. In a detention memo filed by the government, prosecutors say the mixture likely would not have been unable to ignite because 80-proof vodka isn't flammable. Nevertheless, they said they qualified as a destructive device under the law and wanted English detained in custody. Like I said, apparently Miss English wanted to go and kill people that were involved in the Trump administration, and then she apparently figured out that this was not a good idea. Her public defender has said that she should be released pending a trial because basically she possessed a small knife and not any sort of destructive device that could have done any harm other than maybe got some people drunk if the vodka was poured down their throats. Anyway, she also presented herself to the police when she realized that it was really stupid. Now, apparently she's suffering from congenital heart failure, only has a few months to live. That's why she got inspired by Luigi Mangione. Next on the docket, that's right, Rex Huerman. That's right. Take a look. The pizza's amazing, but make sure you finish the crust. All right? His lawyers are arguing that the DNA analysis relied upon by the prosecutors is not widely accepted in the scientific community and therefore should be excluded from the trial. I agree if it's junk science. Anyway, the Long Island residents' defense team also wants to break out the case into multiple trials, which I totally agree. So since 2010, police have been investigating the deaths of at least 10 people, mostly female sex workers whose remains were discovered along an isolated highway not far from the Gilgo Beach on Long Island's South Shore, hence the name the Gilgo Beach Murders. Anyway, Huerman was arrested in 2023 and charged in the death of 3 of the victims between 2009 and 2010. Specifically, that was Melissa Bartholome, Amber Lynn Costello, and Megan Waterman. Now, while he was in custody, though, guess what? He's been charged in the deaths of Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and Sandra Castillo. Now, Huerman has maintained his innocence and has pled not guilty to all the counts. One of Huerman's attorneys says that his client risks being improperly convicted because of the cumulative effect of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, right? How is this not propensity evidence? Anyway, he has argued that there is a substantial disparity in the evidence in some of the deaths, which he maintains involves different time frames, killing methods, and locations of disposing of the body. Therefore, it must be a totally different person, obviously. Anyway, the dangers of having count after count, victim after victim in the same trial. If there's smoke, there's fire. That's kind of the mentality. They shouldn't be tried together on issues of having to do with the other. Anyway, the prosecutors, they haven't responded yet, but they're going to file a written response to the DNA challenge and said they would respond to the motion for separate trials. Now, Huerman's next court date is February 18th, so it is only a few weeks away. Now, DNA test results from the hair strands at some of the crime scenes are among the key pieces of evidence prosecutors have put forward to rely upon getting their case. Anyway, the district attorney has maintained that DNA science is sound and that his office will oppose separate trials. And in their Wednesday filing, prosecutors argued that the whole genome sequencing technique utilized in the case has been widely accepted and is peer-reviewed by scientific journals, by federal regulators, paleontologists, virologists, and medical communities. The findings by the Astria Forensics, a California lab who independently corroborated the mitochondrial DNA testing methodology, has long been accepted by the New York courts, according to the prosecutors, and the whole genome sequencing enables more comprehensive collection and evaluation of DNA, and it is also widely used in scientific, medical, and forensic purposes, and it would seem there was a little question as to whether it has been accepted in the scientific community. Prosecutors also say that Huerman kept a blueprint of his alleged crime on his computer that included a series of checklists with tasks to complete before, during, and after the killings, as well as practical lessons for next time. You know, the learning. What do we learn from this? A little debrief, I guess. Anyway, this brings up a very good issue as it relates to joinder versus propensity evidence prohibited under 404B evidence. So obviously the prosecution has a duty to bring all the cases, usually at one particular time, if they're going to prosecute an individual. You can't piecemeal these cases. It's called joinder. And there's a thing called prejudicial joinder if the prosecution knows of various cases and they don't bring them so that they can then piecemeal them together later. Well, the prosecution's filed separate cases for each one of these murders. Now they want to try them all together. Now, normally you would think, like, let's say in a drive-by shooting, if you killed 4 people, you would have a trial for those 4 people because all of those cases are inextricably intertwined, right? It was all one single event. The question gets a little more difficult, though, when you have separate incidents and all these other separate victims spread out over a greater period of time. Are they all related? Well, the prosecutor's going to say, well, we believe one person did this, Rex Huerman, and therefore we should try all these cases together because there's a common methodology that was done, and we believe in the name of judicial economy that should be the case. However, The other argument is that each defendant has a right to be tried on these charges and these charges alone, and that each case should be tried separately to avoid the prejudicial effect of, oh my gosh, this guy's got 7 murders. Oh, he must have been doing something, right? Like his attorney says, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, the prosecutor's going to say, well, Judge, if you don't join him, guess what? Then we're going to bring him in under what we call 404B evidence. That's evidence of other wrongs, crimes, or misconduct, but that there is some reason other than propensity, which is, hey, Judge, we think he's a bad guy and he did this before, and therefore we're going to bring this in. But we have a different reason to show maybe a plan, absence of mistake, something along those lines that are permitted under 404B. Now, let me tell you from the defense perspective, ladies and gentlemen, if the prosecutor can't prove their case as it stands alone, it's probably a weak case. When you start hearing 404B evidence coming in from the prosecutor, what that really means is, hey, Judge, we know the defendant has a right to be tried on this case and this case alone, but it's kind of weak. So we'd like you to allow in what is normally not allowed in, i.e. propensity evidence, so that we can convict the guy because we think he's a bad guy, but we have a weak case. Have we mentioned that, Judge? So think of it, 404B evidence. And what happens with 404B evidence that comes in as extremely prejudicial and shouldn't come in? Cases get reversed. Bill Cosby, movie producer Weinstein, right? Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, 404B equals weak prosecution case. Remember that. Next on the docket, a corrupt politician. That's right. Cries like a little baby. What have I said many, many times? And I've said my lists of the 12 undeniable lists of life from a criminal defense attorney. Number 1, there's 2 types of people in the world, those that are humble and those that are about to be. Well, guess what? Old Bob Menendez, former senator from New Jersey, he got humbled and he cried like a little baby. I've seen it in court all the time. People think they're tough. People think they can do whatever they want. And then they realize they're going to prison and they're not going to be with their family, and they cry like a little baby at the podium. So now old Bob Menendez, he's going to prison for corruption. That's right. Gold Bar Bob. That's right. Bob Menendez was sentenced to 11 years in prison for selling out his Senate seat to enrich himself. That's right. Gold Bar Bob. Anyway, the disgraced New Jersey Democrat and former head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee cried like a little baby as he begged the court for mercy after being found guilty of trading favors for foreign governments and businesses in exchange for cash, gold bars, and a new Mercedes for his wife. The judge said, somewhere along the way, sir, you became, I'm sorry to say, a corrupt politician, the judge said. And the sentence was meted out after Menendez's lawyer, a guy by the name of Adam Fee, argued in favor of a lessened prison sentence, saying the guilty verdict had scarred Menendez's reputation enough. Wow, I got to remember that one. Judge, his reputation has been so damaged. Give him probation. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to work. And it didn't work here either. Anyway, despite his record of service, he is known more widely, as I said, as Gold Bar Bob, is what the prosecutor said. Anyway, Menendez, who led a committee tasked with approving massive sums of lethal military aid, did favors for Egypt and Qatar, while go-betweens showered him and his wife, Nadine, with cash, gold bars, luxury cars for a no-show job and payouts to a sham consulting firm. Where have we heard of something like that? Oh, that's right. That's how Washington works. You may notice I have blue all over my hands because I had a pen explode on my hand today. Anyway, the judge noted that you stood at the apex of your political system. And Menendez, who sat at the defense table in his little black suit and blue tie, somewhere along the way, I don't know where it was, you lost your way from working for the public, and you became working for your own good. The judge ordered Menendez to report to federal prison by June 6 and didn't immediately rule on the politician's request to stay free on bail pending his appeal of the verdict. I can tell you that'll be denied. Anyway, despite the emotional plea to the judge, Menendez's demeanor shifted outside the courtroom when he claimed to reporters that this case was nothing more than a political witch hunt. And despite the fact that he's a Democrat and these charges were brought by a Democrat a Democrat-led Department of Justice under former President Joe Biden. Reading from a statement, Menendez then made a plea to President Trump, who he apparently has been lobbying for a pardon. Now, Trump has yet to speak on this, and I hope that he does not pardon the former senator, but that's just my own opinion. Anyway, Menendez got up there and said, President Trump was right. The process is political. It's corrupted to the core, and I hope President Trump cleans up the cesspool and restores the integrity to the system. When asked why he was claiming that it was political, given that it was Democrats that prosecuted him, he walked away. Now, as you may recall, how this case got started, federal agents raided Menendez's Inglewood Cliffs house back in June of 2022, found 13 gold bars worth roughly $150,000 tucked inside a bedroom safe. Nearly $500,000 in cash was spread throughout the house, including wads of bills totaling $14,500 piled up into a pair of Timberland work boots and cash-filled envelopes stuffed into the pockets of his work clothes. Menendez did not testify during the 9-week trial, but his older sister tried to downplay the cash trove as simply innocent, completely innocent, decades-long habit stemming from his distrust of banks due to their Cuban heritage. It's a Cuban thing, his sister said. Anyway, prosecutors asked the judge to sentence Menendez to at least 15 years in prison, and they pointed out that this was not the first time the United States senator or public official was found guilty of serving as an illegal foreign agent in his office. They said that Menendez swore an oath to represent the United States and the people of New Jersey. Instead, he went to the highest bidder. Defense attorneys had urged the judge to have mercy on Menendez and impose the minimum sentence of less than 2 years. The guilty verdict has already rendered him a national punchline and stripped him of every conceivable personal, professional, and financial benefit. Well, that's what was supposed to happen because he was a public servant and he was supposed to do the work of the people of the United States, not Egypt, not Qatar, but the United States. And when you don't look out for the interests of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, as that elected official, and then you get paid for it on top of that, you kind of look like you've been bought and paid for, and you're a corrupt politician. Hence the reason I hope Trump does not pardon this particular individual. Frankly, I think if they looked deep into most politicians, they would find that this is the way business is done in government. It's all a big money laundering scheme, and that's just the way it is. How do we get this without giving you money directly so it looks like that we're getting what we want without having to pay anything, but everybody else is getting enriched all around as well? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think 11 years was enough, in my humble opinion, but hey, what do I know? Anyway, the jury of 12 New Yorkers convicted Menendez on all 16 charges, including bribery, extortion, acting as an illegal foreign agent, and obstructing justice. The feds also charged his wife, but her trial is set for March after her case was delayed due to her being diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, you have to remember, you would think that Menendez would have learned the first time he had to go through this, because the Manhattan trial wasn't his first time. That's right. It was his second time facing federal corruption charges. In an earlier case in New Jersey, prosecutors charged him with accepting bribes, including an all-expense paid vacation and private flights, in exchange for favors to a Palm Beach doctor. That case ended in a mistrial, and basically it never went forward. Like I said, Menendez has maintained his innocence and vowed to appeal his conviction. Next, hell has no fury like a woman scorn. Let me give you an example. A Missouri woman is accused of going on a terrifying multi-state murder spree targeting her former lovers. Taylor Santiago turned herself into the police on Wednesday after allegedly murdering her ex-husband, Troy Huffman, in Aurora, Missouri, before driving to her estranged lover's home in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and firing again. At the second home in Arkansas, police say Santiago shot the father of her child, Nathan Green, who is expected to survive, and murdered his girlfriend, Sophia Williams, a mother of 5. Anyway, Williams' loved ones told the press down there that she had called them on the day of the murders to celebrate being awarded custody of the children that Green shared with Santiago. Authorities believe the custody battle may have been what set off the spree, and say that Santiago was motivated by looking to take revenge on her ex-lovers. According to the affidavit for probable cause, Santiago returned to Aurora, Missouri after driving to Arkansas for the second shooting and turned herself into the police. Needless to say, she's facing charges of first-degree murder, robbery, and unlawful use of a weapon, alongside a charge of endangering a welfare of a child, as both shootings were reportedly witnessed by the victim's young children. The police also say that Santiago's alleged spree began when she decided to kill her ex-husband and estranged lover while she was getting coffee at a general store on the evening of the shootings. She allegedly invited Huerman to her home under the pretense of seeing their 12-year-old child with the intentions of killing him. When Huerman arrived, Santiago allegedly told their child to cover his ears because she was going to take care of the bad guys, according to the arrest affidavit. The affidavit also says that Santiago later confessed to Huerman's murder, saying that she shot him several times as he was still standing when she opened fire. She allegedly then dragged his body out of the entrance of her home, stole his keys, and took his car some 50 miles to Green's home in Aurora, Arkansas, leaving one of her children alone at home with the dead body. Police said that Santiago then shot Green and his girlfriend Sophia, with Sophia's family saying she was gunned down trying to protect Green's children, while several other children witnessed the tragedy. When she turned herself in, she told officers that she killed 3 people after apparently mistaking belief that she had actually killed her ex-lover. Anyway, he was raced to the hospital and is expected to survive. Like I said, the police chief said they believe this is all related to custody battles with the children. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, wrong. Once again, I think I'm going to open up a hotline. It'll be for a small fee, but if you're thinking about doing something stupid for a small fee, I will tell you, don't do that and try to talk you out of it. I'll do my best, I promise. Hey, do you think it's a good idea to lure my ex-husband over to shoot him? And then it would be a good idea to drag him out and leave the other children here with the dead body while I go shoot the other father of my children and his new girlfriend? I would say that sounds like a terrible idea. Please deposit $20 on your credit card. I'm here for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here for you. Anyway, another woman kills her husband to cover up her little side hustle. A West Virginia pharmacist has been convicted of killing her husband to stop him from learning about her $2 million Ponzi scheme. Please meet Natalie Cochran. She was found guilty of first-degree murder for the 2019 death of her husband, Michael Cochran, on Wednesday. Prosecutors said that Ms. Cochran poisoned him with insulin so that he wouldn't find out about the $2 million Ponzi scheme that she admitted to operating from 2017 to 2019. Now, she's going to be... She was sentenced in March of 2021 to 11 years for pretending to be a government contractor and defrauding investors out of millions of dollars. Federal prosecutors said she tricked investors into thinking she owned 2 successful businesses with large government contracts. However, she didn't. Anyway, she never invested the money. Instead, she used some of it to buy a 1965 Shelby Cobra classic car. I guess that would be considered an investment. I would buy one. Anyway, she also bought some properties and some jewelry. Now, when her husband started asking about questions about her operations and the police started showing up, guess what? She decided to poison him. Michael passed out on February 6, 2019, and was taken to the hospital where he died 5 days later. Cochran was initially indicted on first-degree murder charges back in 2021 in regards to her husband's death. However, charges were dropped in order to re-examine Michael's body and do some further advanced testing, which showed that Michael died because non-prescribed insulin was introduced into his body. Now, during the federal sentencing, Cochran implied her husband suffered from substance abuse issues. Well, when Michael began to take steroids and using illicit supplements, he was using far too many above the doses recommended. And when he was doing these alternative therapies, it became his addiction every day. She wished that Mike were here. I wish he hadn't. Let me have to deal with this alone. I wish he had never started doing drugs. Anyway, Cochran's attorney built their defense around the idea that some of these supplements caused his death. The defense attorney admitted his client was a bad girl who cheated and engaged in financial crimes and other shenanigans, but argued that she did not commit murder. I love making that argument. You know, ladies and gentlemen, my client is many things, but he is no murderer. He may be a drug deal. This may have been a drug deal gone bad, but by God, he committed no murder. Sometimes you just got to embrace the facts that you have and just go with it. Anyway, prosecutors said that Cochran killed her husband because she felt she only had two choices: come clean or take him out. You may not have done the math, the prosecutors argued, but said Thursday would be 6 years to the date that Natalie injected Michael Cochran with insulin in his home. And then 5 days after that, it will be 6 years since he left the earth, 6 years since two children lost their father, 6 years since the woman Donna Bolt and this man, Ed Bolt, lost their son. 6 years, they say, they've lost that time. Well, needless to say, Miss Cochran, like I said, was convicted and she faces life in prison, but a jury will deliberate Thursday as well to decide whether she will be allowed a mercy sentencing, which would make her eligible for parole after only serving 15 years. What can you say, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, how many times have I said when it comes to recidivism, past performance is indicative of future results? Please meet this Texas man whose drug-related sentence was commuted by former President Joe Biden earlier this month. Well, he's been arrested for allegedly violating the terms of his supervised release, also known as parole to everybody else in the world. Mr. Daquan Willard apparently tried to use fake urine during a urine test when he was under the terms of his supervised release there in the Northern District of Texas. Previously convicted of cocaine distribution conspiracy along with several other individuals, he was originally sentenced back in 2016 after authorities found 2 kilos of the popular street drug and confiscated a couple of firearms, ladies and gentlemen. And then you get drugs. Ooh, yeah, you're looking at least 20 years. Anyway, he only got 14 probably because he went and did a proffer and snitched, because that's the only way you can get a reduction in the federal system. Anyway, in early 2024, he successfully moved to reduce that sentence to only down to 12 years based upon some new calculations under the federal sentencing guidelines. And then on January 17th, that's right, his sentence was commuted along with 2,400 other federal inmates. And then only on January 24th, he was arrested again. Prosecutors say the reason that he is back was because he had a bag of diluted coffee concealed near his crotch. This is what the prosecutors told the judge at his initial appearance. Now, whether his pants were actually down or not was caught with the functional state of such, and then admitted to using synthetic marijuana in prison just prior to being released, prosecutors allege. He can now spend another 9 months going back to prison on the supervised release violation. You would think the man basically had his life spared, a decade off of his sentence, completely commuted, even though he had guns and drugs, which usually involves a lengthy sentence, and you know how it is. But anyway, he screwed it up. Next, young Superman gets a DUI. Tom Welling, best known for his portrayal of young Superman on the TV series Smallville, was taken into custody in Eureka, California for a DUI. The actor was arrested at the Arby's parking lot after officers from the Eureka Police Department at midnight on Sunday and January 26 confirmed that they had reason to believe that he was intoxicated. Needless to say, he was arrested for driving under the influence with a blood alcohol level of 0.080 or higher. Obviously, we'll give him the presumption of innocence. Who knows what can happen in those types of cases. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. On January 30th, 1835, a guy by the name of Richard Lawrence attempted to assassinate President Andrew Jackson outside the United States Capitol. Now, both of Lawrence's pistols misfired, and Jackson survived the attempted assassination. On January 30th, 1956, during the Montgomery bus boycott, Martin Luther King Jr.'s home was bombed in Montgomery, Alabama. Next, our dumb criminal of the day. How many times have we said this? Like, don't live stream the crime scene. Don't post bad conduct because you're going to get charged. Take a look at this. A Georgia woman from Logansville who apparently posted a video on TikTok of dancing suggestively over a disabled person's head has now been arrested. The Logansville Police Department was tipped off to the video, which showed a 19-year-old young woman by the name of Lucretia Kormamasa Koyan, Koiyan, dancing above the man's head while he was seated in the chair. Well, the police executed a search warrant and they found her. She's been charged with 1 felony count of exploitation of a disabled person. Now, people who witnessed the post claimed that Miss Koyan also made a second video in which she danced above a man seated in what appeared to be a bathtub. In both videos, Koyan was dressed in what appeared to be medical scrubs. Police did not publicly address any other videos and did not confirm whether the person in the original video was a patient under her care. Anyway, Miss Koyan, however you pronounce your name, you are our dumb criminal of the day. Use your common sense, ladies and gentlemen. The world lacks so much of it. If you use your common sense, you're not going to have to call my hotline and pay the $20 fee to ask the question of, is this a good decision to make? Would it be a good decision to dance a handicapped individual and then post it online? No. Kind of like the guy earlier in the week that was cleaning off his car with the small child. Would that be a good idea? It may be funny. It may be cute. I'm sure the baby didn't get hurt. But guess what? Poor decision. It's called common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Try it sometime. All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time in Crime Talk. And remember, the Constitution matters.